Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Lugazzani. I'd like to welcome you to our SearchUnify's Customer Pulse, a real talk about our customer's journey. We're launching a series where we sit down with customers for a 15-minute candid discussion, talk about their journey, key discussions, and learnings. In these conversations, we talk about our customers who are transforming their customer communities and their support processes by implementing SearchUnify to drive efficiency and elevate their overall customer experience. In this episode, we highlight a success story from Celonis, and we want to really understand how they seamlessly transformed their customer support experience. So I'd like to provide a really warm welcome to Michelle Stumpf. Michelle, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining today. I'd like to just provide a few minutes for you to introduce yourself and just provide a brief company background.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Patricia. I really appreciate it. So hi everybody. Nice to have you all. My name is Michelle Stumpf. I am the head of knowledge management here at Celonis. I joined Celonis about 4 years ago in the customer support organization to transform how they actually do knowledge and how our customers actually interact with knowledge, looking to drive, benefits and case deflection, et cetera. And we'll get into some of those other details. But before we get into that, I wanted to just briefly describe Celonis. So Celonis is the world's first process intelligent platform, helping enterprise understand how their business processes actually run and drive significant improvements fast. So there's a focus on delivering business value through process optimization. Celonis recognized that a strong support experience powered by accessible knowledge was really critical to customer support.
Uh, I really love that. I really love how Celonis focuses on the customer experience and puts the customer first. I saw the video from your CEO and other executives, and I was really impressed by that, especially us being in the support industry and managing customer experience. Super important. So I'd really like to start today by talking about really your business challenges and what were your objectives when you wanted to implement SearchUnify?
So yeah, absolutely. Great question. So, one of the struggles that we had was, first and foremost, we didn't have knowledge process in the beginning, but we did have a series of knowledge-based articles that were all very high value. But one of the major problems was that the knowledge was completely buried behind the Celonis community. So, not only was the knowledge buried, but customers had to go or had to know where to go to find information that they were looking for to help them solve issues. So we had multiple portals. We had a community portal, an academy portal, documentation portal, right? The list goes on and on for sure. So what we wanted to do with SearchUnify was really unify the experience, right, across all of our customer-facing portals to provide a cohesive experience to our customers, but also uncover all of that knowledge that customer support had spent so much time creating and learning about customer issues, solving those issues, and then documenting that. And we really wanted to not only have our customers see benefit and be able to reuse that knowledge, but also for us to be able to see that benefit in reducing cases that were coming in the first place for things that we had already solved. So, implementing SearchUnify was a no-brainer for us, where we're able to bring together content from all of the different sources that customers would typically look for, right? So, what training do we have available with the Celonis Academy? What documentation is available and is relevant when customers are trying to solve these issues from our documentation site? And then also, of course, the support knowledge and, what are customers, partners, what are they actually posting and talking about in our community? So, bringing those four main content sources together, was really our first step in transforming the overall customer journey to, being able to be self-sufficient, self-serve, get quick answers to what they're looking for wherever they may be working. They may be in a training session that they're looking at something and have a question. They may be on documentation. It's not, from my perspective, it's not up to the customer to have to know where to look. It's up to the company to make sure that we meet the customer with wherever they are working with the information that they need at that time.
I love that so much. I always talk about customers. Don't forget about the fundamentals, right? It's all about making sure you have that knowledge in place, making sure it's organized and well maintained, and then providing access, right, with the tool like SearchUnify. So that's great. And you talked about using SearchUnify to bring together your different data sources. Were there other business objectives when you implemented SearchUnify?
Yes, of course. And SearchUnify also, in addition to providing the search software, actually completely did a portal redesign for us as well. So, like I mentioned before, knowledge and really support was buried in the community platform. So, it's not something you could easily get to knowledge at all. And, we wanted to take the opportunity to bring support and everything that support offers to our customers front and center. So, along with implementing SearchUnify, we did a complete redesign of the customer experience with support, and SearchUnify helped us with that as well. So, that was one of the other major objectives. Which we were able to do. And then on top of that, not only focusing on the support experience, but we were able to implement SearchUnify, in the other places as well. So, it's also now on Academy where you can get to knowledge-based articles from the Academy as well, as all of the other content. And the same thing with the documentation page. So, it wasn't just one place where we implemented SearchUnify, it was several. And we look to the future for implementing SearchUnify within our engineer experience as well, so that they're able to pull in all of the different various sources of content. And we have far more sources internally for our engineers than we do externally for our customers. So, that will definitely be a game changer as well for how we handle the issues that do come through to us that are not solved through the portal.
Yeah, exactly. And you said be there and provide the information wherever the customer is, right? That's
Yes.
exactly the case in point here. So
Yes.
that's perfect. Love that. And then, as you were transforming these new business processes, obviously you wanted to realize some business outcomes. So were you able
Yes.
to improve some metrics, and what metrics do you really look at to improve in the future?
We're still really evolving in terms of the metrics and what we're looking to capture. Historically we have a really high CSAT with our customers, but that is one that I would look at improving overall, right? Since we're better enabling our customers to self-serve. It's a better CSAT company-wide, if you will, not specifically on one case that they may be submitting, a survey for. But it's really that overall customer CSAT and their experience with Celonis. But another one is really case deflection. That's a big area of focus for us as well. We know that we have a high percentage of repeat questions that are coming in, repeat issues. Being able to deflect those is really one of the major metrics that we look at, because we've already solved this issue. So we're continuing to spend time and effort in areas that we've already solved things versus enabling the customer to get the quick answer themselves. But it really does start to bog down what our engineers are able to work on, and their ability to expand and grow, their technical skills, because they're doing the same thing over and over again. So we wanted that to stop. We wanted the case deflection rates to rise. We also wanted to make sure that, with information that we're providing customers, whether they're in implementation or beyond, that they have all of the information at their fingertips that they need to be able to make the best use out of the Celonis platform, right? And sometimes it's not about the knowledge that they think they need, but it's about the knowledge that comes up when they're searching that leads them to all of these, aha moments on things that they can do, or thinking about things from another perspective. So, being able to start surfacing best practices to our customers, this all ties into that better customer experience, that higher CSAT number. But case deflection is the major one that we've started with, because what we really want to do is free up time for our engineers to work on more complex issues, to be able to build and grow their own skills so that we have a stronger team ready to serve those customers.
Yeah, so I love that. So the first thing about case deflection is it makes the customer's life easier, right? So you improve the online resolutions. Then you're improving your employee satisfaction because they're not answering the same boring questions over and over again, which leads to lower costs and higher customer satisfaction. I mean, it's great. It's a great story.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, and just to wrap it up, I'd really like to know just overall, do you have any lessons learned or best practices that you'd like to share?
There are lots, of course, right? With the transformation of this effort, we started off with very few people creating knowledge. A handful of knowledge-based articles. We did have a fair amount, but not the amount equivalent to just the complexity of the Celonis platform itself. What we were able to do was really transform how we do knowledge, right? How we think about knowledge. We implemented the KCS methodology, which really enabled all of our engineers to dig in, to have a role with the knowledge. And that role goes beyond just reusing knowledge to help them solve cases, but they're actually knowledge workers in the sense that they are actually creating and maintaining a knowledge base, which means that the customers are getting a better experience with that knowledge because it's a knowledge base that continuously evolves. It's continuously up to date with everything that's happening in the now. With all of that, the best practices are in terms of, how do we best support our employees, right? Our engineers and helping them develop those skills to write content that makes sense to our customers. At times when you're so, you're digging into the technical, right? You get very technical, you're in the moment. It's hard to step out of that box and say, okay, how do I need to write this so a customer can actually understand what I'm talking about? So, best practices here would be to really spend the time developing the skills of your knowledge workers, provide them with the support that they need so that they can flourish, because this is something that everyone is able to do. If you're able to solve the issues, you're able to sit down with that issue and think about how should I present this issue to the customer. And it's just building a different type of skill. So making sure that we have that in place through a coaching program, making sure that we have our managers on board to enable the time that it requires with the knowledge are all best practices and things that we learned along the way, which are really very, very important in terms of that ongoing success and building those additional skills. It's not something that's, picked up overnight. Some definitely learn quicker than others, but always having that support and keeping things positive are definitely some of those best practices. Another best practice that, we really do abide by is it's not so much about the numbers. Not putting targets on knowledge workers' heads in terms of how many articles they need to create or modify is not something we focus on. We focus more on what we actually need. Where are the opportunities to create, to manage the knowledge, and were those opportunities taken? So it's a little bit more of a complex metric when you look at it, but definitely best practice in terms of making sure that we're, everything is looked at through the appropriate lens, right? And not just putting target numbers on the creation and evolution of the knowledge. So that would be another best practice as
Right,
well.
really to drive quality over quantity.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
perfect. Yeah, so many questions. I get so many questions around how do we get our support engineers to create articles. So do you have all your support engineers writing articles, or do you have a dedicated team that's dedicated to writing those articles?
That's a great question. So all of our engineers are actually enabled and expected to create articles. So, if they were the person that solved the issue, they're the person who's the closest to it. That's the best candidate to actually create that article. One of the reasons is that during the time where they're actually troubleshooting and solving a particular case, all of this tacit knowledge is actually able to flow through and get into the article. And tacit knowledge is, for those who aren't aware of the term, is all of the things that we know, but we don't realize that we know until we're actually using that knowledge, right? It's those aha moments that we have along the way, like, oh, yeah, I know this, right? Why did I troubleshoot it this way versus troubleshooting it that way, right? What was behind that decision to approach something in that way? So, having the person that actually worked through that themselves write the article and provide the instructions to the customer, you're able to capture all of those finer details along the way. So, everyone is enabled, everyone is supported, and it's more about positivity and making sure people have the skills to really feel confident in what they're creating, knowing full well that they're going to pull the trigger and publish that for self-service. So it's not something that's hidden internally and only read by other engineers, but externally and broadcasted to the world.
Excellent. That is so great. So many great insights that you have, and congratulations on all your success. You've done such a great job with this. So
Thank you so
Michelle, I
much.
really want to thank you for sharing your story and all these valuable insights with us. With this, I'm going to wrap up today's conversation. If you would like to share your experience with SearchUnify, just reach out to us at info@searchunify.com. Thank you.